Thank you very much, Ms. Faulkner. Now I would like to ask Sothy Kien from Youth Advocate, Kampuchea Krom Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to reaffirm and agree with the statements given by our previous speakers who talked about the situations of the people living in Vietnam, but we would like to offer an alternative report by the Khmer's Kampuchea Federation, which actually talks about the realities of the Khmer people whose social and cultural rights are not fully enjoyed and exercised because they continue to be treated as second-class citizens within their own homeland. Due to the restrictions, we would like to address the following 4 articles of the treaty. Article 1, the right to self-determination. Kampuchea Krom is a Khmer name for the Mekong Delta and its surrounding regions of current-day Vietnam. We have lived in the Mekong Delta for thousands of years. Our religious and cultural center, Samporang Say Temple, was built in 373 AD in Battambang province. However, despite our deep history and cultural roots in the Mekong Delta, Vietnam does not recognize our Khmer people as the indigenous people of Vietnam and instead refers us to the ethnic minorities. In fact, in paragraph 27 of Vietnam's report to the committee, it states, in Vietnam, there are no indigenous people. This statement clearly shows that Vietnam does not recognize and respect the true history of the indigenous people in Vietnam. The right to self-determination does not truly exist for all people, in particular our Khmer people. We are prohibited from referring to ourselves as Khmer. The names of our lakes, rivers, villages, and provinces have been changed to Vietnamese names, erasing our cultural heritage and indigenous history. More recently, the Vietnam government even attempted to confiscate a seal containing the word Kampuchea Krom in the Khmer script from the Red Sword Temple in Kampuchea Krom. Article 11, right to adequate standard of living. Vietnam is one of the biggest exporters of rice in the world, but not many people actually realize that the rice exported are mostly from the Mekong Delta and are produced by the sweats and tears of our Khmer farmers. The Khmer people are hardworking farmers, but some of them do not even have enough rice to eat because of the expenses of farming are too high. The Khmer people are the poorest people in the Mekong Delta region. The poverty of the Khmer affects the livelihood of the Khmer youth and their future. Because of the poverty, they are dropping out of high school, and many are forced to migrate into already crowded areas of cities. Without education, the future of the Khmer youth is bleak. Finally, I would like to address Article 15, right to participate in cultural life, enjoyment of scientific progress. In the Mekong Delta, there are 2 well-known traditional sports that the Khmer people have participated as part of their unique culture for centuries, which are the ox racing and dragon boat racing, or Tu Go. Originally organized by the Khmer people, the ox racing in An Giang province has been now used to attract the tourists for the Vietnamese government. The Khmer people are paying tickets to participate in their own cultural event. Please refer to Ms. Farida Shahid, the Special Rapporteur in the field of cultural rights, who also raised the same concerns after her visit. Article 13, right to education. In Vietnam's report to the committee, paragraph 493 states that the state shall create favorable conditions for ethnic minorities to learn their own language and writing. In reality, the Khmer people are not allowed to freely learn or use their indigenous Khmer language. The current teaching of the Khmer language in public school is attended by Khmer students. It's not actually a program that allows Khmer children to learn their mother tongue language. The Khmer language classes provide just 1 to 2 hours of very unreliable program per week for the Khmer students to learn Khmer, which is really inadequate for them to learn any language. Therefore, most of the youth now cannot even read or write their own language. For example, we have the case of the monk, Venerable Legion Da, who tried to open a Khmer school in his temple, but he was instead faced defrockment, arrest, and detained. He was tortured. He was forced to confess his alleged crime on public television. There are no magazine or booklets in the Khmer language for the Khmer youth to express their opinions that are independently produced without interference from the government. The Khmer youth who are in high school have very limited access to public forums to express their opinion, and especially on the internet. Since Vietnam is now a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council, the Khmer people should not be punished for exercising their fundamental rights and freedom. We recommend to the committee urge Vietnam to fully implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People in respect to our right to self-determination. Urge Vietnam to respect the right of the Khmer people to identify themselves as Khmer. Urge Vietnam to respect their right to education by allowing the Khmer people to learn their own language and history in public school. Urge Vietnam to rename our village and districts, provinces, lakes, and rivers to their original names. Urge Vietnam to implement a procedure to establish a legal document to start the process of recognizing the indigenous people of Vietnam. By recognizing the indigenous people, it shows the commitment of Vietnam to resolve the differences between the government and indigenous people and establish better policies to help the indigenous people to enjoy the fundamental rights as enshrined in the UN decree that the Vietnam signed to adopt in 2007. We urge Vietnam to make people aware of their rights and the laws that could protect them or abide them. If the people are not aware of the limits of the law, they could be arrested all the time with no concrete reason. We urge Vietnam to immediately release Vulnerable Thach Thương, Vulnerable Liu Ni, Thach Phum Rec, and Thach Phun Pha without any conditions. They are currently in prison for 2 to 6 years for exercising their basic rights. We urge Vietnam to stop all forms of arbitrary summons, arrest, detention, torture, and confession by force, like in the case of the ones we previously named. Urge Vietnam to have fair policies to prevent the price lowering during the harvest seasons, which was the Khmer farmers who could not afford to pay back the debts after selling their rice. Ask that Vietnam to have loan forgiveness programs and initiatives to stop the rate of landlessness amongst the Khmer farmers. We urge Vietnam to allow the Khmer children to freely learn their native language in public schools starting at kindergarten. We ask that Vietnam recognize the Khmer language as an official language in Kampuchea Krom. All applications, including forms, signs, and legal documents, should be written in both Khmer and Vietnamese. We urge Vietnam to stop exploiting the Khmer Krom's cultural sports. Those sports should be freely organized by the Khmer Krom people without interference from the government. And lastly, we urge Vietnam to stop using the Patriotic Union Buddhist Association as a means to control the way the Khmer Krom people practice their culture and religion within their temple. The Khmer Krom should be allowed to create an independent religious organization to promote their rich history, religion, culture, and not one that actually promotes the one policy propaganda of the Vietnam government. Thank you very much for your time.